Angela, I think another thing too that's maybe good to talk about, and part of why I wanted to do this as well is because, you know, I know I have a lot of young followers too who probably it's their first time voting. And I think it's probably, I don't think it's probably important. I know it is important to explain to them, A, why it's so important to vote, B, what it is we're asking. Like the conversation you and I had, what it's like, what are we asking for? What are the demands? What are we saying that we need? And, you know, not just being like, okay, well, I'm going to vote for the president and then it ends there. Because it doesn't just end there. It trickles down into so many different places that are so important. And I think, yeah. And I think being able to kind of like a little bit break that down to say, you know, the county you live in and who you're electing in your county is important. Who you're electing in your state is important. Oh. It's a lot of different things. And I think being able to talk a little bit about why that's so important and understanding that, I think you would probably be the best to maybe get into that and explain that a little bit.
I think, too, one of the things that I hope we can do, I'm happy to start, but I hope that we each can say why we know we need to vote. Because I think that what happens is there's some things that I say that are second nature to me. It's a privilege because of where I worked. I worked on the Hill. I grew up in the house with a dad and a mom who took me to the voting booths, and I would have my little fake ballot and, you know, as a kid, but everybody doesn't have that experience. And so I recognize that. What I would say most of all is that politics impacts you, whether you engage with it or not. Right. And so it is far more responsible to engage with it. The other thing that I use as an example all the time is I'm a business owner. How many business owners do we have on this call?
Not yet.
Oh,
not yet.
On your way. Okay, Delone said I'm a business owner. Delone and Beth Ann. So we know that when it comes time to hire someone, we don't just give them a job description and say, okay, you got it. I'm going to check on you next year. I'm going to check on you in 2 years. I'm going to check on you in 4 years. We gave you a job description and you're going to be reviewed. We're going to make sure that you're meeting the benchmarks. We're going to make sure that you're accountable. We pay our elected officials, whether we voted for that specific person or not, with our taxpayer dollars. You should not have anybody working on your behalf that you are not regularly checking in on and making sure they're doing what you want them to do. Most importantly, I believe that your real leverage comes from when you can say, oh, well, I voted for you, so let me say this, right? So the importance of being at the ballot box is having that extra layer of accountability, and then your taxpayer dollars that pay them anyway. If I'm going to pay them anyway, I want to make sure I had my say.
Right.
So that's the most simplistic version I like to give. And it is my honor to go and hold folks accountable at the ballot box, calling to make sure they're passing legislation and there are bills that I care about that they're working on. And so that's why I like to. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel like I had a role. Delone, you had something.
You're on mute, Delone.
I there's so much street noise, so I keep on muting myself. I wanted to ask you, in regards to what Riley was saying, I very much felt the same way. Like growing up, I would just listen because I felt like I wasn't getting the right education. Like I feel like for the world right now, everyone is learning and unlearning everything. And, you know, one really great thing that we all have is a phone. And so we all have access to Google. But asking the right question, like on Google search, is something that, like, I'm a horrible researcher. I don't know how to, you know what I mean? And so I think for me, I have a lot of anxiety and fear around, like, how do I find the right information? How am I learning about the right things? And I know younger kids will also agree with that. Like, we're not really taught, like, okay, like what it is that we should really be looking out for. Like, I wish that there was I wish there was a more accessible way to really grasp everything. And maybe if you had any ideas, how could we get fashion involved to share that message?
Yeah.
I love that too. And I'd love to hear from Beth Ann on this as well. But Michelle Obama has an initiative called When We All Vote. And When We All Vote, like, they just came out with these graphics where it's like, here's how your elections contribute to the criminal justice with them and how they can be reformed, like from a mayor to a city council person to a state legislator to a district attorney. Like it really breaks things down. I think the website is whenweallvote.org. And there, even if it's, young people that just want to go on Instagram, I get it. Instagram is easier. Sometimes they have graphics on carousel that you can look at and be educated that way. There's also a website called vote.org that, you can type in your zip code and determine, who's on the ballot, who you'd be voting for and all of that. And then you research the people's names just like you would. Some of y'all go on Google and look up the person you're going to go on a date with next. So go and do the little check.
That's right.
And see if this is somebody that you want to dedicate your time and resources to.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't act like y'all know how to do that kind of research. If you can research a future boo, you can definitely research a future. Don't do it.
And the truth of it, I always say to a lot of people, Google is a way to get quick information, but it's not a sense of education. It's it's very important to know the difference. Reading, taking the time to read. Google, you get the answer, but you don't retain as much. It's scientifically known too. The fact of it is when you really want to know, you have to really pretty much pick up a book. I know that's a little bit more for maybe people of a certain generation that really don't want to do all of that. But when you really get involved, once you start, then you want to know more. Because the history of what's going on right now is very interesting. And the people who are younger than you are going to do it very easily because it's their time. They're not, they're not going to be so lost in TikTok as much as you think.
I do think, speaking on that a little bit, I do think one thing that makes me feel a little bit hopeful is I do think the generation below me, which I'm a millennial, I'm the last year of millennial. I think the generation below me, this Gen Z generation, are a lot more open and they do want to see real change, whether it's climate, whether it's Black Lives Matter movement. I definitely feel really hopeful because I've seen a lot more of this next generation coming up really wanting to learn and wanting to educate themselves. And I think that for people like myself, any of us who have a platform, any of us who have, lots of followers, lots of young people following them, then, we can do our part, even if it's just a small part, to give access to those young people links and things to read and suggestions and, websites to go on that, because everything really is digital now, especially with the pandemic. I mean, everything has just completely, in my opinion, transferred onto screens and phones and computers. And I agree that there aren't, and not everybody wants to, read books and do all of that. I am a terrible reader. I get so distracted so easily, but I do know that the young people are hungry. They want to learn. They want to know better. They want to do better. And that makes me feel at least a little hopeful, a little more hopeful.
They're also very much they're doers. They're not someone who basically is going to sit and just, they're doers. They like to get out. I know so many of them, and they don't understand why they can't do that. They just want to do. But I want to answer something to you, Delone, that you said, how can maybe talking to the point of what Angela's been saying in regards to our consciousness about political life and how it affects our lives. It's very important when you said, what do you think the fashion industry should do? I think there is something that we have to do some initiatives to get agencies and people that we can get to individually start asking that we do something. They have to do something to help us because I'm telling you, these guys are not going to let go easy, and it's going to be a fight to the end.
Yeah.
And then, he's so angry now with the last two decisions about the federal court. These things are this is scary. So you have to really stand up. And I'm so happy you said, what can we do? And you should think that, Delone, Riley, you should think it too. And we all should individually start to come together and think about how we can sort of use our knowledge of people around us to sort of start making a difference, because we're going to have to do some initiatives and campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with Haley. I'm super whole, as I've been high and low, like everyone, these last few months, but I've been really hopeful because you know, people really are hungry for change, but I do believe it starts at an elementary level. And I think like what's being taught at an elementary level is not what makes us feel confident to go out and feel like we know what we're talking about, you know? And so that feels like a lot of pressure for, I'll speak for myself, to be like, now I have to learn all this stuff because I refuse to have this president be in office again and blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, so how can we teach this to our youth? What are some resources for them to have? How can we make it enjoyable? Because it's also adapting, right? So maybe it's not a book. How can we have them? How can we adapt this knowledge in like a show or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I was more hopeful in that sense, because it's not the younger generation I think you have to teach anything to. Most of them can't vote. The ones I'm worried about is the millennials.
Yeah.
I mean, like educating from an elementary level, these things.
Well,
Like,
part of it is like back in the day, they used to have civics education, right? Like people used to learn like how the government works. We had Schoolhouse Rock. We had all of these things that y'all don't have. And so I think in a lot of ways, people are trying to figure out how they're going to bring stuff back. The Obamas have on Netflix, I think they're supposed to be bringing back Schoolhouse Rock to kind of teach these things. But some of it may just be from experience. Like if you're growing up in Flint, Michigan, and you know that you still don't have access to clean water, no matter who's been elected into office, that is something that will thrust you into political activism and advocacy. Yeah. If you grow up around police violence and you're tired of it and you're tired of living in fear, you're going to see people hitting the streets just like they're hitting them right now. And so as much as we can talk about the millennials, Queen Beth Ann, they're out here. They are doing the work. If you talk about, you brought up the civil rights era earlier, it was young people that were out there hitting the streets, whether it was SNCC or SCLC or whomever else. It was young people that were doing a lot of this work, the Black Panther Party.
Always.
So, and so it's supposed to be that the elders are supposed to make us wise and the young folks are supposed to make us energized. And somewhere there we can meet in the middle to ensure that folks are educated so as to not repeat the mistakes of the past, but also to have the zeal and the innovation of what is new to say, here's what we know didn't work about what y'all did. Here's what we're going to try now. And I think one of the dopest things about this era is like people can now mobilize without it having to be an ad in the paper or a telephone tree. We used to have telephone trees. Y'all might not even know what those are. The telephone trees, now you can have like post something on social media and people are there. It is incredible to see. My dad just turned 78 June 2nd. So a couple weeks, I was gonna say last week, but that's not right. June 2nd. And he was like, the biggest birthday gift, this dude has a bullhorn still. He's
happy birthday. That's my mom's birthday too.
Oh, it is? So he said the best birthday gift for him is seeing all these young people on the streets fighting for their rights and fighting for our lives. And so he just wants them to be successful. So I think there's a lot we can learn there too. But them young folks are smart. They've been teaching me. They read books. So if you don't like to read, get an Audible account or something. Listen to the book. Yeah.
But when I said what I said before, I want to say something to that. When I said that before, because there's a lot of people between the political mindset of being of color, a lot of people feel like they're not going to vote. That's my problem. They're not going to vote.
But I think that's why we're saying, I think that's why we're having this conversation is I feel like I'm aware that there is a ton of people who they just give up. They're like, I'm not going to go out there. I don't want to vote. For whatever their reasons are. But that's why I think having these conversations and trying to do everything we can to be encouraging to those people who feel like their one single vote may not matter, but not realizing it could be their one single vote that turns it in the right direction.
That's
so correct. I think another thing too, Delone, that you were saying, like if we're talking a little bit specifically about the fashion industry and something that came to mind of like what we can do is, even just between us, even between, whether it was me or Riley or me and Delone or you and Riley, like think about all of the brands that we've worked with. Think about all of the people who are such big powerhouse brands that have so much access and so much like, I think something that it popped into my head when we were just talking about this and when you said that, it's like we have the power, I have the power to go to one of those big brands and say, help me do a campaign that is all about reaching this generation about voting. Like, let's put together an initiative. What's our call to action? Like, we have the power and the access to go to those people that we have a relationship with and we've worked with and say, help me do this because it's important. And I think that there's a lot of people that would be open to hearing that and to helping, who have the money to do it, who have the access to do it, who would be willing to, you know, to help and to put something together that could be really powerful and impactful.
Yes.
And I would be happy to continue those conversations with you guys, and we can come up with a couple brands and a couple people where we can go to them and say, hey, we have this idea to do this big campaign and we really want to have a call to action. Let's create a hashtag. Let's really do it, and let's lend our faces and ourselves to it, because that's what we know, that's our career, that's our job. And let's create something that can be a driving force for what's going on right now and for what we want to change. I just think
and also, I just want to say before you jump in, also that's exactly what we did with the Black Girls Coalition, because of all the, it was all different models, but it was basically because I wanted to help the homelessness that was happening in our city that became rampant in the 80s. And the fact of it is, who was double victimized were children whose parents lost the ability to pay the rent. They had to go into shelters. So all the small little, it's getting all those different girls together. And they didn't, well, okay, all right. Everyone thought I saw the Black Girls Coalition because it was all about racism, but it wasn't. First, it was just a celebration and to try to help my industry learn how to become active about something. Because back in the day, my industry didn't do anything. So we had to find ways, and that's what I'm saying. If you can get different girls, many of you, go to each one of them and say the same thing you're saying now. We are starting an initiative, and we'd like you all to get involved and see which brands you can say how you can help us do whatever we're going to do, whatever way you come up with it.
Yeah, agreed. I just feel like there's no reason why we couldn't go to a big magazine, why we couldn't go to a big clothing company and say, you guys need to help us and you need to step up, because, you know, we need all the help we can get. It's a team effort, and be able to go to them and say, like, now is the time. Like, let's really come up with something and let's really do something. And I believe that there's a lot of people that are really open to doing that.
And to a marketing point, Angela, as for what you were saying, that really inspired me when you said, like, you know, it's not so much education as like people's experience. So, I don't really feel the need to, I think a lot of people don't vote because they feel hopeless. They're like, you know, they're crooks on both ends, so it doesn't matter. But really, if you pay attention to the vote, to when votes are being made, you can make sure that, like, you know, laws are being passed so that, like, these crooks aren't actually able to pass or, like, keep things from happening that are hurting us in our community. And so whether it's, like you said, like, not having clean water or police brutality, or, you know, their schools not being funded, there's no extracurricular activity, teachers aren't getting paid. For me, education is huge. That's my biggest, like, anger. It's like, I don't know why there's 4 schools. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And to come from the perspective of, like, all right, well, what was something that you experienced growing up that you knew was unjust? And I'm going to show you why you need to vote. And to tie it in there, you know?
Right.
Make it like good people, excitement, like,
you know. Yeah, it's true.
My friend Mina just came out with the book, and I read the book to 2nd graders. Like just the other day, so I have it sitting right here because my desk is still messy. But this is the book. It's Kamala and Maya's Big Idea. Mina is Kamala Harris's niece.
Mm-hmm.
So this book is about her mom and her aunt when they were kids wanting to get like a playground put at their apartment building. And so I read this book to kids, and so it's like they have to go to the landlord and write a letter and like get the neighbors behind it. And it's the same type of, right? It's the same type of cadence that you would have in trying to drive change in your local community, in the state, in the nation. It's the same exact process. And so to the point of like teaching kids about civics, it's like getting them to advocate for themselves about what they want. That's what
Yeah.
that's the heart of this. That's what the heart of it is. And so what you just said resonated with me because I was just talking to Nina about like this needs to be like the start of a civics project for kids, like over the summer. Like, what do you do? Because then their motivation, if we're honest, there's so many kids who their parents watch them and they're like, maybe I need to do something, you know. So it's probably the movement is probably through the kids, you know.
Yes, just in Brooklyn, we used to, when we wanted to do things on the street, we had to go to each neighbor to get permission to have like a stand or to let people know that we were doing something. Sometimes we even had to go to the police station, 77, one of my favorite police stations, to get certain things done. And it's very true, as young kids, because we were aggressive, good kids trying to always do things. And so it's a very good thing to help you start from the very beginning. And it's very good what you're saying about everything in regards to education too.
Yeah. One of the last things I wanted to bring up, and this might be like steering a little bit off topic of what we were just talking about, but it kind of like circles back into fashion just for a second. When me and Riley and Delone had a conversation on the phone last week, we were talking about, I asked them, I said, when you guys are on a shoot and you're working with certain people, what % of the time and how often do you feel like the person doing either your hair or your makeup or both does not know what they're doing? And I think that both of their responses was really interesting. And like, I think Riley could probably speak to that a lot.
When I tell y'all, oh baby, first off, when I first started, hair was thick, full, long, thriving.
Mm-hmm.
A certain person saw that I had hair because I wore my weaves. One person saw that I had hair, and once he saw that, it was over. He said, "Don't put them weaves back in your hair. I want your hair." When I said they burned my hair out every chance they could from trying to put mousse in it. So much stuff that's just like, baby, and I'm from Detroit. We don't play about our hair. We know how to do hair. So I'm like, oh, what is that you're trying to use? Can you not use that? Can you maybe try to use this? Because I don't want to be the diva. I don't want to be they try to make us the black girl that's problematic. So you don't want to be that because you want to keep working. So you super polite and, oh, I'm sorry. What is that you're using? Could you try and use this? Can you let me do my job? I'm trying this, but you ain't doing it. So like, it's crazy. Friends who are great hairstylists and makeup artists who have done shoots for, I'll say it, for Vogue and other big publications, and they don't get credit. My friend Haas, he did a photo shoot. He said he's okay with his name being disclosed. He did a photo shoot and did somebody's hair for the cover of Vogue. They took his name off of it and gave credit to somebody else that wasn't even on set. The person was not present, yes. The person was not present, was not on set, nothing. He got no credit. They told him if he wants to post this and get credit for it, that he has to say that he assisted. And that happened to him twice.
Was he working for that person that got the credit? Was he one of the four?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
No.
This is a lot where
the other one, he wasn't working for them, but
that is bananas.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh,
and this is a black man from Germany, and he comes to America, and he was so just thrown back, like, whoa, like this isn't. He wasn't used to racism on that level. Like he literally told me, I never felt black until I came to America. Not meaning like he knew he was black, obviously, but he came like, I didn't realize it was a thing until I came here. That he bought property out here because he doesn't like the way he feels emotionally. He's drained just from these few years that he's been here from the abuse that he's received. And it's just like, that breaks my heart because it's like, you're just trying to make it. You just want your dreams to come true. He's doing all these things that he thought he wanted to do all these years. And then he gets into this industry and he sees they don't even respect you. They don't want your name tied to it. And it's like, yeah, it's beyond me. Makeup, I can't even start to do makeup. Delone, you can take it from here. I
have a problem when I hear hairstylists say that they don't know like where to find these black hairstylists. They're everywhere. It's a matter, you post it on your social media looking for a black, like there's really not any excuse for you to not hire a more diverse team. And then also like at a more executive level, like people at Vogue, or I have a problem with Wall Street Journal, like, you know, like not hiring Black workers, like I'm talking about writers, you know, and it's like beyond the fashion industry. It's like, I want more Black doctors, lawyers, nurses, you know, like all types of healers, like hairstylists, makeup artists, stylists. The idea that you cannot find a Black person who is qualified, it angers me.
It's just
so
not true.
much.
It's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true.
And so I'd like to challenge anybody who might be watching this to do the work, because you're gonna, it's just doing more work. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's what we were saying on the phone too when we were talking. I'm like, a publication as big as Vogue has every access in the world that they could ever need to find those people. So they want to, you know, they want to do the photo shoot where it's, you know, all Black girls, or, you know, they want to have a Black model on their cover, but they're not going out of their way to make sure that the team that's going to be working with them knows what they're doing and is qualified for that. And I'm not saying there isn't white hairstylists that know how to work with
a lot of
women's hair. A lot of them do, but I think it's going out of their way and the due diligence of saying, hey, if we're going to work with this guy or this girl, are you going to know how to do this? Are you going to know what you're doing? If not, I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're the baddest bitch in the makeup industry or like the best person at hair. If you don't know what you're going to be doing, like, we're not going to use you. You can work on something else. And I just think that it's doing the due diligence and going out of your way to having those conversations and just being a little bit more thorough, because at the end of the day, that is the right thing to do. And that's respectful. And that is doing your job correctly, in my opinion.
Okay, but I want to say something just to balance that too. I've been on shoots and I've gone to shoots for magazines where I've seen an integrated glam team. I have. So sometimes these things, like she just explained, which Riley just explained, happens individually. It does happen, and these things can happen, but it hasn't happened. And I've seen multiracial glam teams on places behind the scenes on shows, and also, but there's so much work that needs to be done, because there's so many people I meet that I know that are glam people who can do hair white and Black and do makeup white and Black, and we can't say the same for white artists, that technicians. They just can't always do they can't found the foundation. They're so arrogant in their ego that they're like, when she said, could you please try? No, I've been doing this a long time. You don't need to tell me. They do it to people, and they've done it. And I mean, I was doing a whole meeting the other day with a bunch of models who was telling us the same thing. But those are the things that are going to change, and they will, because now this is our moment.
Yeah.
Let me ask.
Like learning and unlearning happening right now, which is really
that's
nice.
true. Well said.
I was gonna ask. I didn't forget. I want you all to tell me why you want to vote or why you're going to vote. But also something that we all should be doing in this moment. That hopefully we can hold each other accountable to. I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday who was like, we may not have another big moment like this in our lifetimes.
So
how can we be responsible, right, with that? Not only that pressure, because it definitely feels like pressure, but also with this great responsibility, and create a circle of accountability for us here to make sure that, in addition to our vote and why, you know, what are one of the things that we can do either collectively or individually to ensure we're a part of the change that we all need so desperately right now?
There's a question?
Yeah, that was a question.
Oh, I took a statement.
But Dan was like, I do this all day. I don't need a new challenge.
Oh, man. I think, Riley, I feel like you were just about to answer, so go ahead.
I would say, like, I definitely agree with the idea as far as the campaign, because this generation, they are very, like, I agree with you, Beth Ann, when you say they are doers, but then there's a lot of people who need guidance. They need somebody to show them and tell them what to do. So, because they sit up on their phones and watch the internet all day. You get on TikTok, you see the same dance 100,000 times, and I'm just like, I know it by heart, and I never practice it. This is not, you know. So I think that's definitely a good idea for us to start a campaign towards it. And as far as the actual question, as far as why I think we should vote, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the presidents are kind of the puppets, and they're put up in the front, but they're not really the ones making all the decisions. It's the people in the local elections, like we said. So I'm more for, like, obviously, yes, we need to get the orange man out of office. He got to go. We need to get bags packed and actually, he got to go. But as far as the local elections, I do feel like we need to focus on those more. I'm guilty. I have never voted in a local election because I did not know how important it was. I was never taught that it was important.
Yeah. And the midterms too.
None of that. Literally, my first time voting was for Obama, which was, that was the first time I voted. And then after that, it was Hillary. So
that was my first time voting, was when it was Hillary.
So I think we definitely need to just encourage people and remind people that your voices count. Like, it may seem like it doesn't matter. You don't know these names. It's not Biden or Trump, but
you couldn't remember his name.
Yeah,
you couldn't even remember his name.
But even if we don't know these people, we need to do the work. We need to do the research. If I have to get my butt up and get on the internet and go to this website that you listed, what is it? What we
and we all vote.org, and then there's also vote.org.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm about to start doing my work. I'm gonna get on these websites. I'm about to start looking up who these people are, because I can't lie, I don't know who anybody is that I need to vote, but I know that I can't leave New York because I know I have to be here to vote on the 23rd.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
I also think too, like, it's a matter of, it's kind of what I said before, like, we do have access. You know, we keep mentioning like TikTok and stuff like that, and the reason I think we keep bringing it up is because TikTok is very powerful right now. And if we have access to those kids, the kids who are very influential on TikTok, and we have conversations with them and we say, listen, it'll take you 30 seconds to do a little, TikTok dance, being like, this is why we vote, and this is why it's important. Like, it sounds so silly, but it's so
but you see them doing their TikTok moves, right? They're bad.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you see, it's crazy how much influence these young teenagers essentially have on younger kids and kids their age and even older people. I'm 23 years old and I'm a married woman, and I see I see and I pay attention to everything, and it's such a platform. We should be going to people from every platform and explaining to them and being like, even your little 30-second dance video, if we can get it talking about something that really is important and matters, it, as much as they may think it may not shift anything, it shifts a lot. And so I think including that too, like including the young men and women from TikTok and people who are influential on that platform and on Instagram, and on just going to everybody and being like, how can we all come together and talk about this and educate young people, whether they can vote or not, because in a couple of years from now, they will be able to vote. So even if you can't now, at least know why you're going to be voting one day when you're 18. And know what to be voting for one day when you're 18. Because you can never start too young, in my opinion. And that's what I'm realizing too. Like, we can just never start too young. I wish I started learning more about this when I was younger, and I wish somebody was telling me about this stuff when I was younger, and I wish I knew way more the first time I was able to vote, because I only voted for the president the first time I could vote. I didn't do any, I didn't do any of the local stuff. No one was explaining that to me. So I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to pick who I want to be president, done. When it's so much deeper than that. And now we have so much more access to be explaining to kids and young people why that's important and how we can do that.
Yeah. Go ahead, DeLone.
I'm going to vote because elections have consequences. And I learned that the hard way when Donald Trump became president, because I did not vote, because I don't like Hillary Clinton either. And so for me, Angela, I have a question for you. I guess I'll talk about it and then I'll ask you the question. Like, a lot of people feel helpless and they're like, I'm not going to vote because the whole system's corrupt. So what's the point in voting? Sure, voting. And then it's like, well, voting is your chance to use your voice. It says, I have a problem with this. But for someone like myself who believes Democrats are just Republicans in masks, how can you, which by the way, I did vote in other elections. I didn't vote for the president. I did vote in like the midterm and like all those other things. But that was a sad, sad day when he became president. I remember riding that train and being like, oh my God, I could have changed something. I could have, you know what I mean? And votes matter. And yes, like, you know, I do believe like the system like has to change like from the ground up, from like the root, but it's got to start somewhere. And maybe it is voting. I don't know. What do you say to that? I don't know if any of that just made sense to you. Just tell me like you're my friend.
I will respond to that after, but I do want to hear what you think we can do right now together individually, and then I know Beth Ann has to go, and then I'll respond to
Okay.
about Democrats or Republicans in mass. I'll respond to that.
Me too. Thank you, Dave. Help me out here. All right. So what I want to say is that I want people to understand. If you live in a house, you should act like the house is yours. The United States of America is our house. And as far as I beg your pardon?
She agreed.
I said amen.
Amen, church.
Yeah, it's your house. So when you say, well, I'm not going to do anything about it, I see, lucky like Angela, I came up with a very important man in my life, which was my father, who was very political. He was also an Islamic leader. He was an imam. He was a big mentor to a lot of important people coming along. So I was someone who was educated about a lot of things before I even could vote. I was sending, you know, telegrams to secretaries of states of countries. I mean, I've always been aware of politics, and I like politics. And when I went to go to college, I wanted to, you know, maybe major in political science. The point of it is that we need to know that whether we like this or not, use your mind to figure out who you think is best for it and do it. We shouldn't live in a place and not understand that so many people died, fought, got hung, you know, was, you know, just castrated just because they wanted to try to get us to vote. They tried to do that for us, and they made that happen for us. That alone would make me never not vote. These people sacrificed their life. They couldn't even get, so when we look at this little progress about a model and hair, we know, I mean, Riley and I know that simple shit we're talking about. But the point of it really is there's been some really important things that happened way before this movement that's gotten us to this place, gotten us this far. And when you think about what wasn't had, when I used to go every summer of my life, 18 months old to 18 years old, to the easiest southern state, which was North Carolina, and everything was the colored fountain. We had to walk in the back of the Five and Dime store. We had to sit upstairs to look at the movie if we were colored. We couldn't have the fountain. We had to drink out of the colored fountain. All those things that happened, people say, oh my God, that's so awful. I can't believe you experienced it. It was no big thing. It was part of the norm. A lot of things are part of the norm, and then along comes people and helps change it. This is where we are at right now. There's a lot of things been normal. We can't be mad at a guy that was always normal. Now we got an opportunity to change it. And changing it really should come from the top, not the fucking CFDA and the Vogue. I mean, to me, that's haha. But if you're involved and you care, let's get politically smart about everything, because that's what's really important. We start at the top. We work hard, because believe you me, if we don't get this particular person to move over, then that's going to be a lot of control. He's already threatening to change and get more conservatives into the federal. So, you know, court, and that's alone, you know, he's mad about a lot of things. It's scary. You know, this is really things we have to think about. How to do these things, I think that you'll want to do, is to really galvanize and just get together and see, as young women of today who are in the beauty and fashion business, to show that you really have an opportunity to do something that no one else is thinking to do right now. I don't hear anybody else doing it. I know some fashion, little young emerging design houses are starting initiatives for voting. But as young people who are good-looking girls with a lot of connections to a lot of people and a lot of things, it would behoove you to start to work in the political realm and start to act like you care about what's going on around you, because that's what's going to change education. That's what's going to change a lot of things that we really know is important. I mean, that little win for the DACA, that's not going to last. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I don't know if that's going to last for a long enough time. But this is important. So if you just look at all the things that's going on that you don't even think about, we shouldn't be worried about fashion. That's always there. Hate to say it, but it is. You have to think about the things that really make something when you wake up in the morning, how you're going to live your life in this world that we live in. And this is our house. We have to control it. We have to act like we can't control it. Don't think you can't. And if you lose, that's just one battle. Don't give up. Let's keep coming at them. That's the important stuff. That other stuff is frivolous for me. Maybe because I've been in it so long, the model business, the fashion business. I don't give it that much credence as you all do, because it's your moment. But at the same time, at the age that you are now, I was already political. I mean, yes, I was hanging out with Rap Brown. I was doing a lot of things. I mean, yes, I burned a car. Okay, I did that. We did. Yeah, okay. I did a lot of things. But
Go off, Beth Ann.
You just have to do things when you're just upset. You just go with the crowd. That's what you're doing. Let's do it. Yeah. We didn't go to Bergdorf. We didn't leave our neighborhood. But I mean, in the end of the day, it's, we grow up and we get wiser, but we never took our eye off the ball when it came down to changing things.
Yeah.
We always got politically involved. You have to. It's not that much beauty and fashion and things in the world in the end of the day to make us forget where we're living, and how if we change that, then we can change the next.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting what you just said too. I think you're so right. Like you're saying, we never took our eye off the ball, but I think there's a lot of people that do take their eye off the ball. And a big point of where we're at right now and why it's so impactful is like stuff has come up before where it feels like it just died out so quickly and we didn't keep up the conversation, and the goal kind of just phased out. And that's something that I'm really passionate about not wanting to happen, is like, let's keep talking about this. Let's not let it be a week on Instagram where everybody's, really actually talking about it. And then a year from now, what are we doing and what are we talking about and what's the conversation? I think where I'm at right now is really like keeping the conversation going, making sure me as a white woman, I have my eye on the ball, just as you guys have your eye on the ball.
That's right.
And continuing that.
Yeah. So important. Angelita.
So just a couple of things. Delon, you asked about why, if you see like Democrats as, basically as Republicans, and what I would say to you is that just like every model is not the same, I would be careful about the blanket statements, because I was mentored by people like Maxine Waters, who is a Democrat and does not fit that mold. I have,
I'm sorry.
But just say what you can say.
I know a lot of people who feel that way, and if you could just speak to that.
Yeah. But I'm gonna speak to it by calling out examples that make those types of blanket statements and ideology very dangerous, right? The place where I worked, when I worked on the Hill last, was the Congressional Black Caucus. It's known as the conscience of the Congress. That's the conscience of the Congress that introduces reparation bills every Congress. The entity that ensures that there are budget line items that protect the neighborhoods that we all come from, that try to make education more affordable. There are chairs of committees who are Black members, like Bobby Scott, who is over Ed and Labor, my former boss, Benny Thompson, who's over the Homeland Security Committee. And all of these folks, they're the same people, same types of folks on the local level. And so what we have to be very aware of is, like, it is unfortunate that our democracy is split up into two parties, basically, and sometimes a throwaway independent line. Yes. It's not a true representative democracy based on democratic governments all over the world, but it's a two-party system. And what I think the real issue, Delon, that you're getting to is that people don't feel like they really fit in either bucket, and that's okay. Where do you most align? And if there's not someone that represent your political interest, how are you going about finding that person, or how are you going about becoming that person? And so what I would say is a system can't be deconstructed or dismantled if you don't understand the system and if you don't engage in changing the system. That's the same thing y'all are talking about doing in the fashion industry. So
Right.
you can protest it, but it's still going to be there when you put your sign down.
Right.
You have to get into the system. You see a lot of activists right now talking about defund the police. They're working on that because they figured out what the city budget is. They know how much money's in the city budget. They know where to go to hold them accountable specifically. What are the different line items helping police? You cannot protest a system that you don't fully understand and get change. And that's the point. It's like you can holler and scream all you want to, but if you don't understand the tactics, if you don't understand the levers of power that you can pull to get the elected official to do what you want them to do, you're going to be stuck out there screaming. And so what I think is incredible about this moment is the young people out there who are inspiring me know all of that. They're not trying to dismantle a system they don't understand or one that they didn't used to work in. They're talking about, oh, let me tell you from where I sat, where I was, where I worked, what didn't work and what didn't serve us.
The work.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. That's why I keep saying, in addition to your vote, voting is the easiest thing we can do.
Yeah.
We have to lean in, like, we know it still doesn't serve us after we vote. How do we fix that?
Right.
What are our demands for these candidates? There are people right now who are saying, we don't want Donald Trump. Like, why are you asking anything of Joe Biden? We just need Joe Biden. I don't agree with that. I think that Joe Biden can continue to be a better candidate. We have to be better in our jobs every day.
That's right.
Have a flat tire, we got to fix that. He is not flawless right now. And as he is right now, I don't know that he can win. I'm going to tell him what to do to make him be able to win. That to me is smart.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also his cabinet, choosing the cabinet is very important. So it's really important. And once you start to understand politics, it's much easier to walk, to demonstrate. You know what I mean? I can't do the walk. I watch those people walk all the way from Brooklyn to Manhattan. I said, whoa, yay, team. At the end of the day, I can't do that anymore. But the fact is that the truth is that I am so happy that this moment has arrived. We have a lot of agitation. We have a lot of people taking advantage of it to get to the light. Okay, they win that. But there's a really great moment now that we cannot afford to waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would tell you this too, because I forgot to say this, DeLone. I have a birthday bias. Hillary Clinton and I are born on the same day. And I didn't love her in 2016. I was fine with her. I thought she was brilliant and by far the most qualified. But this docuseries they have on Hulu about her,
good.
I think if you haven't seen it, watch it. It will change your entire mind about her.
And I want to tell you something. I'm sorry.
My discrimination came because of Bill Clinton and the
that judgment stuff. Yeah. No, I worked with Hillary. I want to say something too. I worked with Hillary when we had the leaders. What was it group? I think it's a women's leadership. That's not Deborah's, right? What women's leadership? Oh no, that women's leadership forum. That's what it was. And what I loved about what Hillary and Tippi Gore did is that they didn't care if you were a Republican woman or you were a Democratic woman. They just wanted to get women in a room so they could discuss the possibility, because what they were trying to do is make sure that Bill and our boy Al got in again. But it wasn't so much that as much as meeting them and being with them for 3 days in Washington and being with this woman. My sister was also an anti-Hillary, and then when I took her to listen to her speak at Madison Square Garden, and my sister's political and really bright, she was she won her over. Hillary is a great woman, and I want to say this to you. I experienced her, and she's real, and I'm sorry she had to go through all that shit. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you saw it. I'm so glad you said that, because I stand up for it. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I have no shame in saying that I didn't vote, because I want to make it clear to people that how important it is to vote.
Yeah.
I definitely regret not voting.
Yeah, and I think it's good for you to say that too, DeLone, because I think a lot of the time it's important to open up the conversation of, I open up the conversation of I'm being honest, I didn't do this, but I'm more educated now and I know better now, and this is why. I think that a lot of people can be really quick to jump on somebody and be like, I can't believe you didn't vote, da 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 da, like how could you even possibly do that? Like canceled. It's like, okay, well, give people a little bit of space to learn and educate themselves and to be able to come correct and be like, I was wrong and I know that that was wrong, but I know that now and I'm ready to do better.
But she also represents a lot of people. What she said, a lot of people feel the same way she does. So when you're saying, you got more people saying
accountability, you know, and I definitely was not doing as much research as I was. Who cares if it was because I was busy and working? I don't have time to look into politics. It's like, it's my responsibility as somebody who belongs in this house, as you said, to learn about these candidates.
And I think it was also so many more people beyond your group of people who didn't vote because you didn't like Hillary. It was also people who were upset because they felt like Obama didn't do enough, or people who were like, okay, I don't like her or him, so I'm not going to vote. On top of so many different groups of people who were like, with their own reasoning, but in the end of the day, it's power behind numbers. We got Obama in the house. Those same racist people who are here now were here when Obama was here. So if not less, you know, if not the old heads that was racist and died off, rest their souls. But it's a power in numbers. We just got to encourage people. We got to encourage people that it really makes a difference.
You got a lot of people out there who really believe in Trump. I made a couple of mistakes on a couple of people's posts, and these young people from all over the world came after me and said the stupidest shit that you can't even imagine, because they things like, you know, you don't know, you have no idea how much Trump has done for African Americans. When someone writes that, you just have to say, okay, next.
Okay, yeah.
We got work to do, y'all. We got work to do. And so what I do hope is that we can figure out ways to lean in together. Haley, I'm so grateful that you thought about doing this, from talking with your girls. Now my girls too, Riley and Delone, and it's always a blessing to hear from you, Beth Ann. I'm just so grateful to share space with you and Haley, for not only for putting the Zoom together, but for getting the pro account so we could stay on longer.
I was sneaking over here, like trying to like PayPal it so that it wouldn't run out before the thing happened. But I just want to say, Beth Ann, it's such a pleasure to meet you and to hear from you. Thank you for even getting on and doing this. And to Riley and Delone, you guys, I love you so much. And I love even just being able to have these open conversations and for all of us to be able to learn. And, you know, I know that everyone on this call, we want to know as much as we can. And I definitely want to do better and do more. And Angela, you're just a legend. I think that you're incredible. And I'm so like grateful that I know you now and I get to have you in my life. And thank you for being a part of this call and help keep the ship steered in the right direction, because I'm like the worst. I could go off in 50 different directions and talk about 90 different things.
And I want to say, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. I
want to say thank you to you too, because you're a warrior. You are. I mean, you are a warrior, and you must look at that as something that now you have to own this. Don't be shy, you know, because you have good sense. You have a lot to learn, and you're the first one to know it. Riley feels that same way. Riley's just a quiet person, you know. She's quiet. She's got a lot of things. She comes through in the right time, always. And Delone is just someone who's actively pissed off at the world. And in the end of the day, she just wants to get it right.
Yeah.
But if you need a soldier, you can count on them. Both, really, truly. I feel that I'm very grateful to them too, because they've come and supported my thinking for sure, and have helped me and given me some good advice on who should be and who shouldn't be. And I'm really happy about it. Angela, you're a pleasure to see. You and I need to talk, because I'm not letting you walk away thinking you don't agree with me. So
I'm ready to be convinced, Queen. I'm ready to be convinced.
Oh yeah.
And we love you. We love you. And the one thing we agree on is the end goal. That is the empowerment and the upliftment of our people. So we definitely agree on that.
And this is the moment. This is the moment not to be wasted.
Yeah. For sure.
Another thing, I think that, you know, me and Beth Ann talked about this like yesterday a little bit, but like, I think when you educate yourself and you really know what it is you're talking about, you can come from a real genuine place of like compassion and love, and not from like fear and hate and you're wrong and this is why. It's going to be like, I really genuinely want peace for the world, and I want to make this a safe place for everybody, and I'm going to tell you why. And you can speak with conviction in a way that's just like a lot kinder, and I think a lot easier to digest for some people. Yeah, that's all. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Haley.
Love y'all. Thank you.
And also, like, just to end this off for a second, like, we'll keep talking. We can put our minds together and our thoughts together and really do something awesome and really, really cool. And
I'm with you. I'm with you. 100%.
So we can keep chatting and figure out something really dope.
Yeah, truly. And I'll send you little notes too and speak to you about this girl. You should get some girl power model shit and get these girls to be cool.
Absolutely.
Important right now. I mean, a lot of things you could be worrying about and fighting about. Everybody else is fighting about those things. They're all arguing and throwing people out of their jobs and shit. Y'all should do something important, because in 4 months we're gonna be fucked if we don't do something.
Oh yeah,
that part.